financially, I mean, we're looking at bankrupting this county over 212 Lawrence Road, the start of it. And we have been, I mean, I've asked for, you know, assistance. I do understand with your point that there's two separate issues, or could be two separate issues. I don't want to misspeak between, you know, personnel and administration, and then the hard realities of how to operate that facility within our means. And I think that this court has put aside any type of personal issues, and really looked at the dollar amount. At least I can speak on my behalf, and I feel like that's with my colleagues as well. And I think oftentimes it could be portrayed as such, that it is a knee-jerk reaction, but the reality is, financially, the dollars speak for themselves as far as the expenditures are concerned. I also admire and do appreciate the fact that there are a lot of unknowns with this decision right now, to an extent as far as where will inmates be housed, where will they be held, you know, when a police officer does arrest them. There's tons and tons of data that still needs to be collected to identify if this truly will happen or not. I mean, we voted that it will happen, but the reality is, you know, as, you know, responses come back from the folks that we are, you know, entertaining with other counties that have closed their facilities, you know, we don't have those answers just yet, but I mean, I do appreciate you coming because I think the Judicial Center is a key stakeholder, if not probably the #1 stakeholder in this decision, because you folks, well, not you anymore, but your predecessors are the ones that will, you know, hand out the sentences, could increase home incarceration, could not. But the reality is we could travel 50 miles, or we could travel 20 miles, or 75 miles, or 175 miles to pick up these prisoners, but we don't know that just yet. So, and I also know that, you know, a resolution is what it is until you go back and revisit it or modify it. Yes, this decision has been made, and I think the taxpayers, there's honestly been very few people that I've talked to that say that they do not appreciate us going down this path, and that's who I represent, not just myself, but the folks who, you know, in my district, and quite frankly, countywide, just because I do speak to a lot of folks that are even outside of my district. But the reality is this has been going on for an awful long time, as far as what I deem as misadministration, not spending funds appropriately, making a decision to evacuate 69 inmates, which is equivalent to almost $800,000 that we don't have. But yet we still have to have a contract that feeds 350 people. We still have to have a medical contract that would provide the medical care for 350 inmates, whether we have 100 inmates or 400 inmates. Right. And we can't afford it.
I think you just made my point. Not having those questions answered is the reason that you should wait and act on this. You know, as I mentioned before, act in haste, repent at leisure. I've done that a lot in my life, both sides of it, unfortunately. I've seen it happen, but with all those questions, that makes my point, really, that it's not the time to go forward right now. Your frustration with what's going on out there with the jailer, that can be addressed in a number of ways, and certainly through the court. Mr. Crawford has dealt with those on occasions. Maybe he hasn't done all he wanted to do. But having all those questions out there, the point is this. If you do this, and you haven't had a CPA or the Department of Corrections, and I don't know how they deal with this, if that's within their bailiwick necessarily, but there are people out there who can look at this and answer your questions about, are you going to save money or not? Because I spoke with someone who's been involved in the business of jailing. And I'm not saying he's absolutely right, because you can bring someone else who will say different. This person ran a jail for over 20 years, took no money from fiscal court, turned over money to fiscal court on a regular basis, paid off the jail building within 10 years of it being built. That doesn't happen very often. That person, who obviously is an excellent business person, I called him point blank, asked him last week after the vote, I said, you know something about the circuit, you know the judges and everybody involved, and you know something about the flow in Grant County and all that. Based on that, I'm going to put you on point here, based on that, do you believe that Grant County can farm out their people, considering housing costs, medical costs, transportation costs, forgetting all the time and impact on the community? Do you believe it's possible to farm them out less expensively than keeping them in their jail, even if you limit the jail to a smaller population or whatever? I don't know about those things. I don't know either. I don't know whether your decision's right or wrong, because I haven't seen the numbers. He said, no, you can't do that. You can't farm them out cheaper than you can keep them in your own place. Now, I'm not here to tell you that he's absolutely right. I'm here to tell you there's someone in his position makes that statement, at that point, we wanna go, well, maybe we need to gather more information, because at least that brings the issue to a point about there's at least one opinion out there that you may be taking an action that's gonna result in greater cost to the county rather than less. You know what I mean? And that would be a real sad situation where 40 families would be affected by your decision and lose their jobs, and a year from now go, wow, we spent $200,000 more than we thought we were gonna spend if we had kept the jail open, or whatever the number might be.
Right.
That caution, I don't believe in dragging things out forever, but my goodness, the jail is, we've had a jail here for 100 years, I suppose, and old one over here, and the one upstairs, and I've dealt with a number of those, and to shut something down on a month, or 2 months, or 3 months notice, without having all those details, take that back. Most of those details tied down. These people are taken for this much, transportation work out this way. And that's why these people who work in this court system every day, all of them, and I said there were some people who thought they were on board. They're not, because they have to, they want more specific information before this enormous decision that you make. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I'm doing the best I can for it, okay?
Well, and as I go, it was really a tough decision for me, because I have no doubt in my mind that this jail could have made the county money all along, but for some reason, I don't know why it hasn't. And to go that long without it doing it, you know, it's beyond me. It's you know, you keep taking $500,000 out every year to cover the expenses, to cover the debt, when if the jail would have been kept full, it would have paid the debt. And we would have been forever and a day robbing the general fund to pay the debt out of the prison.
Well, and it started, you know, when federal prisoners were yanked from the county jail over the situation that happened like in 08 or 09. It started from there, and it's been a ripple effect, a slow trend ever since, which the federal inmates were a huge moneymaker at that point in time, which we had them, I don't know, a few years or so, if that. But then also, I mean, this issue is bigger than a Greene County issue, because the daily per diem for the state inmates has not increased in probably 20 years. It's still 31, 34 a day. But, you know, not to beat a dead horse here, but I do understand and respect the judicial center's, those members, folks' point of view. I have put together a draft of what I deem like a critical task schedule that I have shared with the judge, the deputy judge executive, because there are many factors that still need to be examined and data drawn, because we're not sure just yet. We do know that we do believe this is the route to take, but who's to say when additional data comes back that that's not the route?
You know, I can't speak for him, but a part of the intention of the court's action was to get the attention of the jailer. He's here tonight, I don't speak for him. I think it'd be safe for anyone in this room who has a lick of common sense to say, you've gotten his attention.
No,
Is that enough to cause these errors to be corrected, or potential errors to be corrected? I don't know, but I'm just saying, I'm not here to speak for him. All these other matters are what are concerned to me.
Okay, I understand that, but let me ask you, if a jailer come to you after a budget was done and said, I'm decreasing that inmate population by 69 felonies, okay. First of all, it was due to safety reasons, that type of thing. But if it was by cause of safety reasons, why would you get rid of your felon Ds? You know, they're more of a safer inmate to have than your other inmates. So, first of all, I have, you know, a question on that. And then, what would you do with the shortfall of almost $790,000 when he says he's going to decrease his revenue basically by that much, but he never says anything about the expense side of decreasing it $790,000 to offset the awful? What would your answer be as a fiscal court representative?
I would have to get more, I don't know anything about those numbers. I would gather information. That's what I've spent my life doing. That's, and the tough thing to do. Here's someone who's questioned. I've had motions filed before me to reconsider decisions I made, and I always didn't write those. All I did is read and write decisions. And I'd have people come in and say, reconsider this and look at this. I was told there are judges that didn't do that. Well, I did it because, unfortunately, I'm extremely human. And sometimes I looked at the same facts and added a few things to them and decided, well, maybe I acted in error. So I'm here before you tonight when I'm talking about, say you made an error.